Oh, well, that's the problem.
Yeah, we all heard him say that. Okay.
Alright. I have a pretty short presentation, so can go to the next line, John. So these are just the basic topics that I'm going to be covering. Can go to the next slide. Okay, so gender neutral bathrooms. I briefly discussed this with Mr. Guzman, but a lot of the students at the high school right now aren't aware that there are gender neutral bathrooms that they can use, like how many there are or where they're located. Most of the time, the gender neutral bathrooms are locked, as far as I know, and students don't know who has the key so they can uh, get access to use the bathroom. Many students don't feel comfortable using the other bathroom, so gender neutral bathrooms are really the only option for them, but it's not that accessible as of right now, so there needs to be like some way that we can maybe disclose more information about the bathrooms to those who need them. But yeah, that was just my little spiel.
So, Sitlali, can we give an update about that? So, I think since Sitlali shared this with Mr. Guzman, he has since met with Mr. Waller, who's in charge of building use, the assistant principal and person over building use. And I think, Randy, were you going to share maybe an update of what you guys have talked about at the high school regarding gender neutral bathrooms?
Yeah, I think they were gonna try to figure out a way to share all the information of the locations of the restrooms with the rest of the student body. And I asked him about, yeah, asked him about the doors being locked. He said they're not locked. And if they're locked, there's probably somebody in them. And there is one restroom, gender neutral restroom, down by the locker room that's for people to change clothes in if they need to change clothes, like for PE or sports or whatever they have going on later in the day.
Okay. This is just a short presentation on Dia de los Muertos that's coming up this November 1st and November 2nd. November 1st and November 2nd are just the most common days to celebrate it, but people will celebrate it for like the entire month, or they'll celebrate it as early as like October 28th. But November 1st is Dia de los Angelitos, which is to honor the loved ones who died as children or as babies. And then November 2nd is to honor loved ones who died as adults. And pets are also honored throughout the holiday as well. And then lots of families in Mexico make ofrendas to honor those who have passed. Put up pictures on the ofrenda in cempasúchil, which is used, it's a flower grown in Mexico that's used to guide loved ones back home. And then we leave food, water, to re-energize them after their long journey back home, and items they loved back when they were alive so that they can take back with them to enjoy. And so this was just more to for the board to learn about a holiday that is very important to Hispanic cultures. Yeah. And then senior night in Oblong, Tiger Marching Band had senior night this past Friday, and our last competition at Oblong. Senior night was very fun. All the seniors were very sad, bittersweet. And at Oblong, we won first in our class in best music, so we won 7 awards total for the season, which was really nice. So yeah, that's it for my presentation. Thank you.
Any questions for Sitlali?
There is a display in the high school. I noticed it this morning. They're inside a window, a display window, where a class had put special pictures of people that they had lost in there. So we can go see that in the high school as well. So thank you.
Anybody else? Okay, thank you. Moving on to our first administrative report, 10.1, board agenda updates.
Okay, so this is really short. Hey, John. Yeah, this is giving me some hearing issues. This one is also doing the little echoey thing that Tori's was just doing. So, as board members know, last spring we met with Perry Hill. I think it's this one. It's the same monitor. From IASB, the School Board Association, who came and worked with our board on developing board goals. I think the board, I don't know if they were available back there on the table, but the board goals are listed and they were in the agenda. So, looking for my little sample here. The goals that the board developed at that time were to focus on student achievement, our dual language program facilities, district finances, cultural climate and building community, and redistricting. And so then there were also some vision statements included and then goals. So this is just very quickly, I wanted to get the board's feedback on what I'd like to do moving forward. And so you have a sample at your seats of a kind of mock-up agenda. Across the top of it, it says goal example. Is that what it says, Lori? Okay. So, yes, so moving forward, and we are kind of doing this in preparation for our strategic planning. So what I'd like to do moving forward for, not for every single item on our agenda, but specifically for administrative reports, for our study reports, is really tie our reports and our study presentations to some area of our board action themes and our vision statements, just so our staff and our families see the connections that we're making. Right now, we have kind of mapped out our year. We've taken our goals, these goals, we've taken goals from the board. We've taken specific topics that the board would like to talk about, and we've kind of spread them out throughout the year. But what I'd like to do is kind of take those topic areas and our action statements, and as we talk about them throughout the year, really tie them on the agenda. And then when we have our strategic plan, we'll do the same thing. So when we have our strategic goals, when we talk about like a curriculum instruction, maybe presentation, we would list out how it is connected to student achievement and curriculum. Like tonight, we're having a presentation very specifically from our multilingual department. And so that aligns with board goal 1B, 2A, 2B, 2C, 5A. So moving forward, when we have presentations related to specific areas related to the themes and vision and goals of the board, I'd like to just kind of list those areas very strategically out on our administrative reports and our study topics moving forward. So I just wanted to run that by the board before I just started doing it. It's something I kind of talked about doing in the spring when we had our meeting with Perry. Perry talked about it being a good idea to make sure that our community was very aware. I know we've shared these through a couple packets, but by putting them on our agendas all the time, I think our community will be much more aware of them. On our sample, if you go to the last page, Lori has kind of typed out a key. So we would just kind of leave this key at the back. It's on the last page. So we just kind of leave our theme, our vision, our goals back here. And so if we had a specific study topic, people could say, oh, okay, I see that study topic aligns with a culture climate item. So tonight, for instance, we're talking about, again, the multilingual department. So 5A is promoting a sense of belonging among students, staff, and families. That relates very well to what we're going to hear from our bilingual parent advisory members when we hear what they have to share with us tonight about what they're doing in the community. So we would list out the connections, just so our community is aware, how what we're doing aligns to the board's goals and vision. And then once we have our strategic plan, we do kind of mirror that and do the same thing with our agenda moving forward. So is that something everybody's
Comments?
okay with us doing? Okay, I just didn't want to start doing it without really kind of talking to you guys about it first, so.
Okay.
Suggestion?
Yeah, is this also on on our website, our district website? Could it be in the board section?
I
So, in as much as we,
Thought it was, but if it isn't, we need to put it there.
okay.
Yeah,
So that other
Yes.
members of the community can see that, okay.
we should. I know we've had it in a couple packets, but you're right. We should have it as one of our very specific tabs there on the website. Good idea.
All right, anything else? Any other comments, questions?
Jennifer has one.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea. I'm wondering if we could add in the equity policy
yeah.
things that sort of go with
Sure.
this. And I don't know how you could do, I think.
Okay,
But
yeah.
I think that it would be nice.
Yeah,
for
I
us
thought
to
about
keep
that, but I wondered if it'd be too much, but yes.
Yeah, that's right. I
Yes.
wouldn't want to make it, and this is
Mhm.
good. But
Yep.
just to think about it, and I don't know exactly, maybe we could even just see how does our equity policy
Align.
align with these goals.
Sure. Yep.
Just to-
Our equity action plan is online on our website, but you're right. I did think about that, and I wondered if that would be too confusing. But yeah, let me think about how we could maybe come up with maybe a special code or something. Like if we had if we use maybe BOE, very specifically BOE, and had a number, and then we could have EAP. That's how we kind of reference our equity action plan is we always call it an EAP, and we could have an EAP and then a goal number. So that's an option too. Yeah, I like that idea.
All right, anyone else? Okay. Moving on to 10.2, multilingual department update.
Okay, so invite Lupe up, and she's gonna she has a lot of people with her tonight, so we're gonna let her kind of control the flow of the presentation. So Lupe is our Director of Multilingual Programs, and I believe
Yes.
Dr. Wiemelt.
He will be with us
He will be joining us
shortly.
in just a few moments.
Yep,
In-
so I apologize for the delay.
Yeah, no problem.
Yes, as Dr. Aruteta mentioned, I'm Lupe Ricconi. I'm the Director of the Multilingual Programs. I work in collaboration with Dr. Wiemelt, who his primary focus is 6 through 12, while mine is pre-K through 5, but we support each other like a team that has worked together for 12 years. So, just to get started, I wanted to kind of introduce this to all of you in the public. As a department and multilingual leadership team, we spent some of our time last year coming up with a mission and vision for our department. So I want to share this with you, so I will be reading it. The Urbana School District 116 Multilingual Program strives to promote academic excellence through multilingual and multicultural education. All multilingual learners will receive support to develop fluency and literacy skills in English. Any student participating in dual language or native language programs will receive instruction and or support to develop fluency and literacy skills in their additional languages. Through the multilingual program, students' values, languages, and cultures are affirmed while acquiring an understanding, appreciation, and acceptance of other cultures. So with that mission and vision, I want to take a moment to give some of the key stakeholders that help support this mission and vision. First, recognition. So all department staff and support members, please stand up for a moment because I would like to recognize that we have representation from all of our levels and buildings that support us either in the classroom or in other support roles that support families and students across our district. So thank you very much for all of your work too, and for all of the teachers and staff at home, thank you very much as well. So to get started with this discussion, we wanted to also include some key members that focus directly on their work around parent and family engagement. So we're going to get started by providing an opportunity for our Bilingual Parent Advisory Council to give you an update on the work that they've been doing so far this year. So I'm going to turn it over to them.
Do I need to push it? I never remember. Okay, perfect. Okay, so my name is Mitzi Maldonado. I work at Yankee Ridge. I am the Spanish Family Liaison / SEA. My coworker, Flor, who is the French liaison, was not able to be here, so I will read what he had typed up for us. So French BPAC, we had our first meeting on September 21st. Parents had a chance to address some of their concerns, mostly about the dismissal process at the beginning of the year. We also talked about what the BPAC really is, the role and the responsibilities. And lastly, we scheduled our next meeting in December. That's where we are going to have election for the committee, and some parents have already manifested their interest for some positions.
John, can you click on the link that says presentation?
Hola, buenas noches. Mi nombre es Keishla Rivera y soy la mamá de Yael Maldonado, estudiante del programa dual y presidenta del Comité Asesor de Padres Bilingües de Familia a Familia de Urbana School del Distrito Escolar de Urbana 116. Lo voy a leer en español. Este first reading in Spanish is the Ms. Rodriguez translate for English, okay? So, la misión del Consejo Asesor de Padres Bilingües de Familia a Familia o BIPAC tiene la misión de fomentar la participación activa de los padres en la educación de sus hijos, específicamente aquellos que están aprendiendo inglés como segundo idioma. Buscan crear un puente entre las familias y las escuelas para asegurar que los estudiantes bilingües reciban el apoyo necesario para tener éxito académico y social. Objetivos del Consejo Asesor de Padres Bilingües, BPAC, es promover la participación de los padres, mejorar la comunicación, apoyar a los estudiantes bilingües, desarrollar el liderazgo de los padres, colaboración con el personal escolar y promover la inclusión y la diversidad. Algunas actualizaciones que tenemos son los eventos que hemos estado realizando. Okay. Algunas actualizaciones que tenemos son los eventos que se han estado realizando. Hemos realizado reuniones mensuales por tiempo de 1 hora. Se ha observado un incremento en la participación de las familias. Hemos integrado actividades para los niños con el fin de integrar a las familias en total. Publicación del calendario de eventos con antelación para que los padres puedan separar las fechas. Integración de la comunidad como la Biblioteca Pública de Urbana, Parkland College y la Universidad de Urbana, Illinois. El calendario de actividades para el año escolar 24-25 está disponible en Facebook, en la página de Familia a Familia, y también nuestro medio de comunicación oficial para el Consejo de Padres Bilingües, BPAC, es la página de Facebook. También estamos compartiendo el link y el barcode que las familias pueden unirse.
Good night. My name is Ms. Rodriguez. I am the secretary of the BPAC and also special education teacher in UMS. The mission of the BPAC is to encourage active parent involvement in their children's education, specifically those learning English as a second language. It aims to create a bridge between families and school to ensure that bilingual students receive the support they need to succeed both academically and socially. This next one, sorry. Objectives of the Bilingual Parent Advisory Council is promoting parental involvement, improving communication, supporting bilingual students, developing parent leadership, collaboration with school staff, and promoting inclusion and diversity. The Urbana, Illinois BPAC strives to create an equitable educational environment where bilingual students can thrive and reach their full potential with the active support of their family and the school community. Updates. We have been holding monthly meetings. There has been an increase in parents' participation. We have integrated activities for children to involve the entire family. We have posted the calendar of events in advance so that parents can reserve dates. Community integration like Urbana Library and Parkland College and U of I. We are sharing the calendar for the 24-25 school year. It's available on the Familia Familia Facebook page and the official communication channel. All channels, events, and updates will be communicated exclusively through the Facebook page of the BPAC. Here is the barcode, so you can have access to the link.
Thank you.
Gracias. Gracias.
Any questions?
Yeah, I do. Okay, thank you. One of the things that one of our goals is to make sure that we have more communication with families. And are there other ways besides the Facebook page that you can let parents know about some of your activities and the events at school? And what other ways have you found to communicate?
Las familias que no tienen Facebook reciben la comunicación impresa. Siempre se envía un informe de lo que se dio en la actividad y también se envía los flyers con los eventos que van a suceder.
Anybody who hasn't used Facebook, families are getting some flyers, like physical copies, and then they already have the calendar pre-made that's been shared at previous events, so people can save the date and already have an idea of what's happening. And then at the elementary level, I usually get the digital flyers and share it on Seesaw, which is our school-wide application.
Keshla, are you guys doing hard, like paper copies to middle school families? Like sending home paper copies of flyers?
Sí.
Like, oh, wow,
Sí.
okay.
Y también enviamos a los chicos de high school.
Mm,
Sí,
and
la
that-
comunicación es global.
Oh, and that's working, okay. Okay.
Other questions?
I have a question. ¿Está bien si hablo en español? Okay. ¿Cómo es que entregan la comunidad como con el biblioteca y cosas así? ¿Dan eventos juntos o qué es
Sí.
que hagan?
Se planifican eventos dependiendo el mes, es el tema que vamos a tener y según ese evento se identifica si lo necesitamos en correlación con la biblioteca o con la universidad o con Parkland y luego de ahí se planifica el evento y se envía a los padres.
Gracias.
Sorry.
Yes.
She has She asked how we're deciding and if we're collaborating with these other, well, they, because I'm not part of them, but if they're collaborating with community members and other agencies. And the answer is yes. So depending on the topic, there's a different topic every month. And so once they decided on the topic, then they decide, okay, who would be able to support us in this event? And that's how they reach out to the library. We had one at Parkland last month. So the little ones got to visit the planetarium. And then the parents and the older students, secondary students, got some information about early college, whatever Parkland has to offer, scholarships, financial aid. They also got to meet Professor Larenas, who is the Latino Advisory Club for Parkland. And the next one coming up is
Matemáticas en acción.
oh yes, math. It's math in action,
En colaboración con la Universidad de
and that
Illinois.
one will be in collaboration with the U of I.
Other questions? Okay, we'll move to the, thank you.
Thank
To
you.
the next piece of this.
Okay, I'm serving as MC right now. So next I'd like to introduce Lucia and Mitzi to kind of give us some update about the work that they have been doing as parent liaisons in the district.
Okay. So again, I'm Mitzi Maldonado. I am the Spanish family liaison / SEA at Yankee Ridge. There is Flor, who is the French, so we work school-wide, but he focuses with the French population. This year, we're still kind of figuring things out a little bit. With the double role, it's been a little bit different than what I've done in previous years. We had a great turnout for our Bring Your Family to School night. Conferences were actually pretty successful. We also had a Latinx Heritage Celebration right before break, and it was a potluck. We had a lot of families come out. We had some Zumba and some crafts. Urbana and Urbana Park District were there. It was a lot of fun. This year we started a cross-country team. We had approximately 20 runners. 4th and 5th grade only. We would have had a lot more if we would have opened it up to 3rd graders. The students and families really enjoyed it. We've been talking about having an unofficial training for the spring marathon, giving the kids the opportunity to run either the 1K or the mile or the 5K. They also, in previous years, I've worked with one of the coaches. We worked with CU Kicks for Kids, and so we were able to get some of our previous students shoes and free entry. So we hope to do that again this year. Spanish DL, 5th graders. I've done this a couple years at Dr. Williams, where we have a pen pal program with the U of I and La Casa Cultural Latina, which ends in a field trip to La Casa. This year, I have about 60 5th graders, so we will all be writing letters and going to La Casa at the end of the school year. Ongoing support. So one of the things that I've been doing this year has been helping a lot in the office. We have, what did I say, about 312 native Spanish speakers, about 50 native French speakers, and about 120 native English speakers. So our Spanish-speaking families are a lot more. There are a lot more phone calls. Majority of our phone calls are in Spanish. So I've been hanging out in the office quite a bit. We have, up until like 2 weeks ago, we only had one bilingual Spanish secretary. And so a lot of what I've done has been helping her with the phones, but also registrations. In the last month alone, the month of October, we had about 7 new students start, all newcomers from Central America. So it's been nonstop. A lot of the supports, or a lot of the families are needing not only the language support, but also resources, whether it's the health clinic, food, clothing. Majority are coming in and being considered McKinney-Vento families, so they are requiring assistance with transportation and also housing. As liaisons, both Flor and I, we help a lot with Feed Our Kids, which is the program that gives little snack bags for students. This year we only have about 20 so far on our list, but in previous years I've had more. We've been working really hard on bridging the communication between school and home. So Seesaw is a great application for those that can use it and those that know how to use it. It allows us to send digital flyers home to every student, have one-on-one conversations. The teachers can use it as a method of like text messaging where it's just between them and the parent. But for me, it really helps because it translates automatically. So I can send stuff in Spanish, but anything that I send in English too, it goes out to all the families and they can translate it to their preferred language. As SEAs, we work with truancy and helping students be in school more. So we do a lot of analyzing data on Panorama, working and trying to figure out and support families on how to get their kids to school and why are they not attending, which includes making non-compliant lists, phone calls.
There was another presentation that was yours, right? Can we go to the next page?
No, it's it, Mia, because that's cross-country.
Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
that's
Okay.
UMS.
Do you have any questions for elementary before we move to UMS? The parent liaison from UMS is not here, so Mitzi is going to read because she reads a lot better than me. Is that
Any questions, anybody for?
or do we want to save questions till the end? It's
We can go now, go ahead.
But as long as we're talking about the elementary, I think we're just all interested in knowing how the families are doing, adjusting in the new environment, and if transportation is a problem for families, or are they getting there? You talked about truancy. Are any of them having problems because of transportation?
Well, I think it was definitely a shift for everybody, where most of us are in a new building, right? So even figuring out at the beginning which door to get into and whether you're a walker or you're a bus rider. Transportation has been a little bit tricky because we have seven buses.
7 buses, yeah.
7 buses. So the first 2 weeks of school, I actually was at Ivanhoe every morning, helping the kids get on the right bus. So that's been a little tricky. It's definitely gotten better. We've smoothed out some of those little wrinkles. There are still some issues. Mainly, it takes the bus barn about 3 to 5 days sometimes to get them on a bus route, to get a student a route. So at that time, the student is missing school. Majority of our students, at least in the Spanish program, don't live anywhere near, so they're all bused in. So at any point that the bus is late, or there was construction at Ivanhoe one morning, and we were notified, so then the bus had to reroute. They were like, 30 minutes late? That communication isn't going out to parents because unless I can get on the phone and type it up on Seesaw really quickly, we can't make 500 phone calls. Our number, by the way, today I checked, we are 491 enrolled students. So we're pretty large. Transportation, the only other little concerns that I've heard from parents lately as far as the busing, we have a couple pickup and drop-off spots that are kind of unsafe. So I know a couple families have talked to Citlali and had met with other member, like the first student, the principal, and myself. We've been trying to work around it, but there are some areas like Dodson and Main where I have 2 little kids that have to cross Main Street. There are no stop signs there, and it's been very dangerous and pretty scary for the parents. Aside from that, I think the transportation portion of it is getting better. It's just, there's a lot of us. There are a lot of our students. 2 buses are strictly going to Ivanhoe, and one of them has about 75, 80 kids on it. So that's a pretty big bus.
More questions? Go ahead.
I'm wondering, is there a separate pack then for the French speakers?
BPAC,
A
yes.
BPAC?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so
Okay,
I
and-
read the first part of it because Jean's not here, Floor's not here, but they do have their own. They meet on Saturday mornings, once a month, I believe. Or
Okay.
every quarter, okay.
Okay, and they're doing basically the same things.
That's a loop of conversation.
Yes.
So part of the reason why why Floor had mentioned that they're doing formal elections, it has taken time for us to grow a population that comes regularly. It was similar to what we had in years past with Spanish dual language as well. Jean Floor is also a parent, so he's kind of spent supported both roles. I was very happy to hear at our last meeting lots of parents coming up and saying, Jean Fleur does so much. We really want to help him. You know, can you please, you know, how do we help him? How do we fill these roles so he doesn't have to do it? So they're a very strong knit community where everyone kind of takes leadership within the community. He's kind of been the focus person. So we're hoping to expand that and more systematize it similarly to what we've done with Spanish BPAC for the past few years.
And this is John Matanda.
No, this is Jean-Fleur Quilanda Nayambo. He is our parent liaison, our French parent liaison at Yankee
Okay.
Ridge. Yep.
Okay.
More questions? Okay, move on to middle school.
Okay. So Carla was not able to be here today, but from UMS, hosted various events for Latinx students and families. They had a guest speaker, Sergio Negri, LHM Hallway Parade, and Latinx Heritage Month School Dance, door decorating contest, and Latinx Heritage Month closing activity, which will be on November 1st, and I believe that's BPAC will be there as well from 6 to 8. Ongoing support, assisting with registration and language support, collaborating with local organizations to provide resources to families, bridging communication between school and home, and collaborating with building SEAs, home visits, assisting with attendance challenges. One thing I did not mention on mine, but we all kind of collaborate because most of our families have students at three levels, sometimes even with Nellie at the preschool level. And I know Carla and I have a couple families in common, so we often, if she does a home visit, she'll call me, or if I have a question about a family, or if I notice something, you know, I'll contact her, and then we can tag team and better support everybody.
Questions?
Well, she's not here.
Yeah,
Wait.
I don't know that we'll have the answer, but.
Probably won't work out the answer. So I'm not gonna repeat that last part because that's pretty much what I do, and I have been doing for many years. So I'm just gonna focus on some of the updates that I have since I was moved to the high school, which, by the way, I wanna say that it was really great to, I think it was very positive to be moved to the high school. I had been learning a lot of things that I would like to change, things that I can do differently to support families. So I'm going to focus on that. Since I moved to the high school, I feel like the communication with Spanish-speaking parents at the high school has been getting a lot better. When I was running between the middle school and the high school, I always felt like when parents were texting me, I was replying really quickly, and I never really had time to communicate with them, to really have a conversation. Now it's been a lot better. The number of families that are coming to the high school, Spanish-speaking families that are coming to the high school, is growing. Very frequently during the day, I get phone calls from the office saying, hey, you have a family here visiting, you have a student here visiting who want to talk to you. So that's really good. It's been really great to see that. We now have a process to welcome students on the first day. We always felt bad for new students who came to the school on their first day and were given a schedule and take them to their first class, and then somebody just left them there. I always felt bad about that, because if you're coming from a different country, you don't speak the language, the schedule that they get here means nothing to you if you don't understand that. So now we have a process. I meet with the students on their first day. I give them the schedule. I help them understand their schedule. I introduce them to the counselor, other important people in the office. We pick up the ID, we pick up the Chromebook. I give them a tour around the building to make sure that they know where the important offices are. We go see where the social workers are. And we have some hall monitors that are bilingual, so I always make sure that I introduce the students to them. So if you get lost, this is the person that you can communicate with. Of course, I show them my office too, to make sure that they know where to go, the library, and if everything fails, you can always go back to the office. So I think it's been very positive. Their whole face changed when I take them to their first class and they already have a backpack and their Chromebook and their ID, and they know exactly which bus they need to take when they need to go back home. So we don't have to be rushing at the end of the day to show them where they need to go. So that's been great. We, like Mitzi mentioned, we keep getting new students. Last week we registered 2. The week before that, we didn't have any, but the week before that, we had, I think, one student, and it's been ongoing. So we keep getting many new students. Being at the high school, being in just one building gives me the opportunity to do more checking with the students. I love talking to students. I love to see how things are going. I always go during lunch to the commons to check in with the students. Sometimes most of the time I don't eat there with them, but that's a perfect opportunity for me to meet several of them at the same time. So I'm able to do that now that I have more time there. I finally have a space where I can invite families to come, sit with me, and talk. A welcoming space. Not that it was bad before, but I usually, when new families came into the building, usually we met in a little corner among students who were there hanging out and try to fill out the paperwork in a little space on a table. Now I have a table, now I have our own space, so where we can meet and we can talk, and I can gather all the information that I need, and it's welcoming. I try to set up my office very welcoming. We thought that one of the students who had a baby last year was going to come back this year, so I set up a little nursing station in one corner in case she needed it. And now unaccompanied minors had been using that chair because it's kind of comfortable. They had been using it when they need 5 minutes to rest. I always tell, and I'm going to talk a little bit more about unaccompanied minors, but I always tell these students, they work so much after school. So I always tell them, I know you're tired, but don't miss the whole school day. If you're really tired, come to my office during the day when you need a 5-minute nap, and then you can do that here, but don't stay home the whole day. So we have been using that space for different reasons, but it's been very inconvenient to have that space to finally meet and welcome families and students. We have 22 unaccompanied minors this year, very similar than other years. I guess the difference now is that last year we started getting more kids from other countries. If we were having this conversation 3-4 years ago, I would tell you that most of the unaccompanied minors, or all of them, were from Guatemala. Now we have students from many different countries. We have students from Guatemala, Ecuador, Venezuela, Colombia, Honduras, El Salvador, Argentina, and Mexico. So it's been very interesting. Once we establish that they are unaccompanied minors, when we complete the registration package, I fill out the McKinney-Vento form because all of them qualify for McKinney-Vento services, and I select the services that they need. So once that happens, most of these kids, their sponsors are not really willing to keep providing support to them after the registered school. So it actually becomes my responsibility to make sure that they have that they get a physical, that they have all their vaccines in order, and sometimes that's really difficult because we have to be talking to families that are in their home countries to be able to get photos of their vaccine records or just any proof that they have vaccine records. There is a process to get some vaccines for students who were arrested by immigration and received vaccines in one of the immigration centers, but it's a very lengthy process, and it takes more than a month and a half to get any information from them. So that's not really useful for us here. But I take care of that. I make sure that I usually go to the appointments with the students. We also know that all the unaccompanied minors have legal requirements and need legal advice soon. So we always make sure that they receive legal advice through the partnership we have with the U of I legal clinic, and that's completely free for the students and completely private for them too. Like I said, all of these students also are homeless. They receive, I do a lot of referrals with them. I coordinate the services between the school and the other agencies that provide services to them. One of the things that was very difficult at the beginning of the school year was to find clothes, because we had, I think we started the school year with 17 unaccompanied minors, and some of them needed shoes and some of them needed clothes for schools. But Dr. Abby Tatum helped me get in contact with somebody from ROE, and they were able to get me a couple of things. And also, I've been getting some donations, people donating clothes that we keep in a closet specifically for these students. So that's been very helpful. But we provide everything they need to start school. UU Church at the beginning of every school year give me backpacks that are specifically prepared for unaccompanied minors. So they have a towel, they have a little blanket, They have hygiene products. They have some funds in case they need clothes or shoes for school. So that's been incredibly helpful to be able to have that backup backpack that I know that I can just give them, and I know they're gonna be it's gonna be useful for them. This year, something new is that we also have a few international students. We have families from, I don't remember, I think 6 or 7 families from Kazakhstan. I've been working a lot with a family from Jordan and a few families from Afghanistan. And of course, I don't speak their languages. And it's funny because some people at the office think because they know that I speak Spanish, some people think that I can communicate with other students. And sometimes I get a phone call saying, hey, we need help. Can you come and help us? So we have been using Google Translate a lot, and it's working great. We have been really being able to help them. I actually met some of the families from Kazakhstan shortly after the end of the school year, last school year. They arrived in the community in June. They came to the school asking for information about registration. And again, I was just walking into the office, and and somebody said, hey, can you help them? Because no one could communicate with them. We used Google Translate, and I gave them my number. They gave me their number. And so through the summer, we communicated that way. When we had registration, centralized registration, they knew exactly what they needed to bring. They knew the dates, they knew the time, and they were ready to register their kids. So it's been working really good, really good. I really like that part of my job now, that I'm able to work with more students, not just Latino students. Somebody asked me why I was doing that, and I feel like it's not that I have to, it's just that I like to. I like to make people feel welcome and comfortable when they're in the building. Thanks to Sherry and other volunteers, we have a food pantry that has been very successful. We have a distribution on the 8th, and we serve 21 students. On the 29th, we serve 12 students. I have between 3 and 5 families who come every week to pick up food. It's been very useful to have food that is culturally relevant to them, so they know that when they come to our pantry, they can actually take food and they can actually cook something that their kids are gonna like. So it's been very useful to have the pantry there. I have between 6 and 7 unaccompanied minors who also come to the pantry every week to pick up some items. And I have some kids from Guatemala who won't eat anything from the cafeteria. They just don't like it, anything, not even pizza. And they ask for soup, so they like soups. So we were able to buy some soups, and that's what they had been eating. Now that we have microwaves in the commons, they come to me, they pick up their soup, and then they go and heat it up, and that's what they're having for lunch. So it just works. We also are working with a lot of community organizations doing all the referrals, because like Mincy mentioned and Carla mentioned too, we have a lot of new families, new arrival families from Central America, from other countries, that are here and need a lot of support. Some of the organizations that I most commonly work with are the Immigration Project. The Latino Partnership has been very useful getting some funds for some of the families. Cunningham Township, when it's something needed about housing. The Refugee Center has been incredibly helpful for me, connecting families with resources really quickly. And the U of L Legal Clinic, like I mentioned. We wanted to mention something that we're starting to work on. I'm not gonna say we. I had been hearing some concerns from families regarding the election. When President Trump got elected last time, we have many families and students who were in crisis for weeks after the election. And I have started to hear some concerns about that too, not only from adults, but students too. So we had started to work on an emergency plan, like what we did last time. It's basically a plan that was created by the Illinois Coalition for Immigrants and Refugee Rights. And it's a plan in which families can just list all the documents that they need to prepare and have safe in one place in case one of the adults is picked up by immigration and placed in deportation proceeding. Our whole thing, I think, is I want to make sure we know what we're going to do if a student is in a school and we hear that their parents were picked up by immigration, because that's everybody's concern. But I want to make sure that we know, or we have a system in place, and parents know that there is a system for them to get ready and to prepare, so they know they can assign somebody to take care of the kids if that ever happens. Hopefully it won't, but we want to be ready.
And just to add really quick, because we were talking about resources, we've mentioned it before, excuse me, but a lot of our families, especially our newcomers, don't qualify for every type of assistance. So we have to be very specific with who we point them to or who we reach out for help.
Yeah. And that's the most challenging thing, because I was having a conversation with somebody and I was telling them, when you look at if somebody that is not part of the community and doesn't work directly with immigrants looks at the community, you're probably gonna see, oh wow, this is a great community. There are a lot of organizations that are doing this and that. The reality is that we work directly with the community and we know the needs, and we know that the number is really, really small of people who actually can provide assistance. And understanding is a big issue. Understanding that is a big issue. Do you have any questions?
Questions?
Not a question, just a comment. Your families and children aren't the only ones worried about the election, obviously. But thank you for all you do. The district needs more people like you.
Thank you.
So.
Sharon?
Yeah, I wanted to say a couple things. I know all the different things that you have to do besides getting kids to school and helping them in school. They can't get there until they have a place to live. Food, clothing, doctors. I mean, you went through your list. So that was probably one of the reasons why another altruism member and I decided to take something off your list, but your list just keeps growing and growing. One thing I noticed through the years is that we have a very giving community. I know if you can't get things from an organization or an agency, there are people in our greater community, Urbana and Champaign, who are willing to help you. And if you can continue to reach out to people through our district website too, I'm sure that you'll find more people that want to make sure that these kids are taken care of and ready for school. So appreciate that. Another thing that we heard last time is that sometimes it takes 2 days to get housing. What do you do then for these unaccompanied minors? In those 2 days, where do they go?
Housing is not really a big issue for unaccompanied minors because the sponsors are obligated to provide that. So that's not a big issue for them. It becomes an issue after the unaccompanied minors already paid the fee that they owe other people. But that's usually a year or two after they get here. The issues that the cases that I've been assisting with related to housing was from families actually. In the last probably 2 months of the last school year, I had 3 families in my office who came asking for help because they didn't have a place to stay. One of them was living a really, really difficult domestic violence situation, and the other 2 were evicted from family members' houses, and they were just on the street. And it's really complicated. What I was saying before, you know that there are resources, but my first thought was to call and ask, what do I do? Because I really don't work with homeless people and housing. And the answer was, there is really not much that we can do. So I started calling organizations, and of course it was a Friday, because all of these things happen on a Friday. The 2 organizations that I call are closed on Fridays. Cunningham Township, I think they say it takes 3 to 5 days to call you back. And I knew that I wasn't gonna let them stay sleep on the street that night. So one of the families, actually, we couldn't communicate. We were talking through Google Translate. The student speaks some English, but I couldn't communicate with her mom. So I took the rest of the day off, and I went with the student to pick up her mom, and she was actually on a parking lot with her bags around her, and they were gonna sleep in the parking lot that night. So we spent the day just driving around trying to find a place for them to stay. But this town is really interested. We couldn't find any hotels because there was a derby in town, and the hotels, even the cheap ones, were like $200 a night. So we made it work. We found an apartment complex willing to let them passed their background check and everything the same day, and we were able to. So that night they had a place to stay. But that keeps happening with other families. So there is really not a good system to provide assistance, quick, fast assistance. There are no funds, as I've been hearing, there are no funds to help families stay in hotels during the weekends to give us time to find other resources. So it's complicated. Yeah.
Other questions or comments? Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, so as we continue, we just kind of wanted to give an update on some of the numbers of what enrollment looks like, what our programs look like this year. So these numbers were run a few days ago, and I can tell you right now, the number at Yankee Ridge has already increased by 1 since I did this a few days ago. But you can see we have over 1,000 emergent bilingual students across our district, and that's inclusive of students who also may have IEPs. As the ladies mentioned, we have lots of newcomers this year. At elementary alone, you can see we have 53, the majority being at Yankee Ridge and at King. At the middle school, we have about 15, and at the high school, 44. One of the exciting things I'm always eager to tell people, not just in our community but around the state, is we have a very diverse district. You know, having 69 different countries represented in our district, 51 different languages. This is really exciting for our community. Our Spanish DL program is pre-K through 12, and I wanted to mention that because the current senior class that's graduating is the first class that started in kindergarten. Last year, the first class that graduated are the ones that started in first grade, but this class really started in kindergarten, so they have gotten that entire experience. And our French DL program has expanded K through 7 this year.
So I pulled this data from the Illinois report card, school report card, and this is just over the past decade since 2014. And this is just English learners, so those students that are identified with limited English proficiency according to the Access English Assessment. And as you can see, back in 2014, we were under 10% of the district of English learners, and now we're over 20%. So we've increased substantially. And even from when I started back in 2007, it was even smaller than that percentage-wise, percentage to the whole. And so our language learners continue to grow, as well as the diversity of our language learners and our immigrant students as well. So just wanted to share that. Our dual language program has been in place since 2012-13 school year. So that group that's seniors this year were, as Lupe mentioned, kindergartners in 2012-13. So it's really fun to see 10 years later what all has transpired, right, in the past decade, so over a decade.
So we're just going to give some quick highlights about the programs in all of the different buildings, so you can kind of get a picture of what's happening in our school. So at early childhood, we have about 90 emergent bilingual students there with 14 different languages represented. We were very excited to be able to have our 2 Spanish dual language classrooms this year. One of our previous pre-K bilingual teachers went to Yankee Ridge to do a different position. Finding a pre-K bilingual teacher to teach in a DL classroom, I always say, is like finding a unicorn, because they have to be certified in SPED, they have to be certified in bilingual, and they have to have a Pell for early childhood. So we were very lucky to use our powers of recruitment to get someone to fill that position this year, as well as making sure that we have support staff that can support all of our students that are at early childhood. We do continue to screen students. Right now, our Spanish DL classes are probably the largest enrolled at early childhood. So the priority right now is to students that are K age to be in that DL classroom. So that way we can make sure that they're prepared for kindergarten next year. Through the Elevating Educators Grant, there was a specific provision for funding for people to get their bilingual and ESL endorsements. We've been had 3 staff members currently at Early Childhood that have taken advantage of that to get their ESL endorsements, one of which also including the principal who is working on that endorsement as well. They're continuing to use the creative curriculum that everyone at Early Childhood uses, and as was mentioned in a previous board meeting, they did receive the Gold Star designation from Eckers, from their Eckers audit this year, and that included the DL classrooms as well. With King, King continues to be where we serve our most diverse number of languages and students. They have about 90 ELs this year with 25 different languages representative. We have 4 staff there that provide support either through push-in or pull-outs ESL services, as well as native language support. We do continue to offer native language in Arabic and Mandarin. And I believe Dr. Zhang is still here, who provides ESL and Mandarin support and has for many, many years. The ESL program at King also adopted a new curriculum this year, which is 2 different programs, one called SAIL and one called SOAR. They're still going through learning how to fit that in to their program model, but so far they really enjoyed it. And at Yankee Ridge, of the 491 students that Missy had mentioned, 318 are English learners. Even within Yankee Ridge, we have 14 different languages represented across the student population. The increased opportunity to have the teachers be able to collaborate with each other more regularly about language and content has really helped them to really beef up their curriculum and instruction and provide a more engaging experience for all of the students. Dual language lives and breathes every day from start to finish, so the teachers are really excited to be able to have those constant conversations about instruction, about classroom practices, and even get to observe and support each other all day. And, you know, by all of them being together, this was really what we were hoping for, that all of these school systems could really be aligned from a multilingual perspective from start to finish. They have been implementing the CKLA and Amplify curriculum as a resource across K through 5 in conjunction with the work that we've been doing with the Center for Teaching for Biliteracy around the bilingual unit framework design. Let's see here. So I added this since you received your report on Friday. I had a question about the demographic of Yankee Ridge and how that looks different as far as what we had projected back in the spring compared to now. So if you look at columns 3 and 4, column 3 is what we had projected back in the spring, and you can kind of see where those numbers have shifted now that we are officially together. You'll see that for the most part, the numbers are pretty similar. We have had some increases in our French Lingala and Confabal speaking population. But overall, if you look at the total enrollment of the building, we were projecting about 499 and we're at 490, which something to consider in that is that 499 was in the spring. And right now we're talking about the fall. We haven't even finished growing. As you know, the number of newcomers will continue to get by spring. Let's see. I'm not going to read through this because it's a lot of text, but we had been getting questions about what the biliteracy unit framework is. So I did want to provide this overview. Basically, if you think about it, it's a way to ensure that language arts instruction is being provided in Spanish and in English. One of the goals of dual language education is that you're providing that students are developing and achieving bilingualism in both languages. Well, in order to do that, you have to provide language arts instruction in both languages. As all of our buildings know, the schedule, is the number of minutes in an instructional day are finite, so we have to do what we can within the numbers that we have. So the biliteracy unit framework really provides an opportunity to make sure that you're hitting all of those key pieces of language arts while also teaching it through content-based instruction. So to give you some examples of what biliteracy unit framework, or as the teachers like to refer to it, a BOOF, look like, You'll see that they are all centered around a theme and standards-based instruction. There are components specifically related to oracy, language comprehension, writing, foundational skills, as well as a key part of this is the bridge. What that means is that if I'm teaching my unit in Spanish, there is going to be an opportunity for me to bridge that instruction into the other language. The next diagram is the same, but in English, and you would be bridging back to Spanish. So some of the resources that they've been using in this, particularly at 3 through 5, have been using the Camino/Amplify as a resource with this, while K through 2 has spent this year more focusing on using the Caminos as written, as well as our French program. So this is something that is ongoing practice. We are working with the Center for Teaching for Biliteracy on an ongoing basis through regular PD as well as on-site support.
I'll be brief. At UMS, we have 187 English learners, 22 different languages represented. Also inclusive, well, not necessarily inclusive of that, but within the dual language program, Spanish English, we have 173 students that are still participating in dual language in middle school, as well as the French English program that is just now going through the middle school is at 12 students. So it's a really small program comparatively. One of the exciting pieces at the middle school and high school level is the incorporation of new curriculum for Spanish language arts and English language arts, as well as social studies, and in the process of increasing our textbooks and curriculum resources in science as well. And you'll see later, one of the key findings from our program evaluation 2 years ago was to increase the number of curriculum resources at the secondary level in the target language. And so we've been doing a really nice job of adding those in at the middle school and high school level. So our next slide is the high school. And so you can see just a little bit bigger with 4 grades compared to 3, of course. And so 218 English learners. When I started as a teacher in 2007 in Urbana schools, I think UHS had like 30. English learners approximately, right, Jennifer? And so you can see it's grown immensely at the secondary level as well as elementary. But we've been able to increase curriculum resources at the middle school and high school, as you can see, and we're working on vertical alignment, which we'll talk about a little bit later in this presentation, from 6th through 12th grade, being more aligned with our Spanish language arts teaching. And then that link there for the Seal of Biliteracy, I made that presentation the end of the school year, but that's just a reminder of that option as well. We doing okay? I saw people looking around like maybe like I did something wrong. Okay. So we're going to take a moment and just quickly unpack the dual language program evaluation that was done from the Center for Applied Linguistics 2 years ago, and provide an update on the work we've done following those recommendations, and also an update on what work we still need to do following those, the evaluation updates and recommendations. I'll take the first couple, or do you want to take the first couple?
Go ahead.
So the first strand, as you may remember, the framework for effective dual language instruction provided by the Center for Applied Linguistics breaks it down into several strands. The first strand is program structure. As a reminder for those who were on the board back then or following along with the dual language programming updates, in 2022 we did a self-evaluation using this tool. Those were our findings in this strand. Then the middle column is CAL's findings as it relates to this strand, and then the final column is the progress that we've made thus far implementing those recommendations. And so we're not going to go line by line, but you can see the biggest piece here was developing a leadership team that focused on developing a stronger mission and vision for our programming, as well as linking together your goals as a board with the work that we're doing within the program as well. So you can see kind of the evolution of our self-evaluation, the external evaluation, and then our progress thus far. Strand 2 is the curriculum, which we've talked a lot about already. One of the big pieces of feedback was increasing the amount of curriculum resources in dual language classrooms. And so that's what we've done a lot of work as a district, it was nice timing that the district was implementing a new ELA curriculum district-wide. We can tag on to that with SLA curriculum, as well as other subject areas of social studies and science at the secondary level. At the elementary level, and Lupe spoke to this already, but really trying to bridge for lack of better terms, a formal literacy curriculum with the biliteracy unit framework, and create something that's much more intentional as it relates to biliteracy within a dual language program is the ongoing work that we're doing at the secondary level too, but it's definitely an elementary focus as well. And I'll take this third one with instruction. One of the biggest pieces of feedback that we received was increasing the diversity of professional development and training that we provide for teachers in our programming. And I believe Lupe's done a great job leading this through the Center for Teaching for Biliteracy, as well as the future work that we'll be doing led by Wendelise Rodriguez with the University of Illinois Chicago and the Spanish Language Arts Alignment initiative that we're working on. But there have been a lot of also at the district level increase in workshops and sessions at Winter Institute, Fall Institute, as et cetera, as it relates to multilingual learning and multilingual education. So we're not probably ever going to get everything that we want as it relates to professional learning, because that's an ongoing endeavor. There's never a finish line with that, but I do believe we've provided an additional layer of support for all of us.
So looking at the next strand, assessment and accountability, the key takeaways here were how do we ensure that we are assessing students in both Spanish and English, and then using that data in a meaningful way. So through the adoption of Amplify, something that we were really excited is that the M-Class assessment that is given as a benchmark to our students, it provides an embedded opportunity to look at a student from both languages and to actually give you targeted information on how to support those students. So you can click on the primary or the intermediate link. John, I don't know if you want to click on one just to kind of show it. So for all of our students that have tested English proficient, we give them the assessments in both languages. I don't know what I did, John. So you can kind of see on this, it's kind of small, but in your own time, if you want to click on it, you'll see that every student that takes the assessment in both languages, you'll see their score in both languages, as well as, oh, I can't scroll,
Yes,
John. As you scroll down, you'll see that in each one of these areas, they will tell you how to target based on the need in that language. So this is a really useful tool for teachers as they're planning specific instruction for each student. So for example, it'll say, okay, in Spanish, this child is doing this. So then in English, this is a way to kind of bridge that to help them grow in that area in English. So these are really exciting reports that are coming out of the M-Class assessments. So we're really excited to kind of see how we can implement that more within our MTSS process. Keep going, John. Like 10 slides, I think.
I think strand 4 is where we'll be.
Right, and then for strand 5, we've already talked about professional development some. I actually just came from my EAP professional development strand meeting, and one thing that I will always give kudos to Ms. Smith, our Director of Professional Development, for really being reflective to the needs of all of our students and teachers. So really focusing on embedding what the teachers are asking for into professional development, and including multilingual as a part of that. Doing job embedded support from the district leadership, having 3 administrators at Yankee Ridge that are all trained bilingual educators supporting teachers on an ongoing basis makes a huge impact when you're talking about improving instructional practices. You have admin that have lived it and breathed it, who now can take their learning experiences and share that with the teaching staff. As well as having that embedded support from the Amplify coaches, as well as the Center for Teaching for Biliteracy consultants coming in and providing professional development there as well. And then family and community, you heard a lot about family and community and how they are, our liaisons are supporting, as well as the buildings, really making sure that there are culturally responsive events and activities happening in the buildings as well. A couple things that they didn't mention was at the high school, they recently had some grads come in as a part of Latin History Month and talk to students about their experiences post-secondary, or, yeah, post-high school. Yeah, as far as some things that they're doing either as an employee in the community or as a student. The other thing that they didn't mention is Wenda Lease and the BPAC have actually been hosting a series of virtual events with families where they can hear from a special ed consultant through the center, the IRC, on how, as a parent, I can support my child with special needs. And then support and resources, as Joe had mentioned, we established a district leadership team as a part of the equity committee as well. So they meet regularly to kind of do an ongoing self-assessment of our programs and really talk about what we can continue to improve. As well as we work really hard to make sure that all of central office has a really good understanding on how we can support our dual language and multilingual programs across the district. And lastly, I just wanted to share some pictures about Latin Heritage Month, as that has come to a close October 15th. If you have not gotten to see the high school mariachi band perform, I would highly recommend you watch this video because they have grown tremendously over the past couple years. Ms. Gingold has done a great job supporting and developing them as musicians. They came and performed at central office as well. And then just a couple other pictures of events that occurred at Yankee Ridge as well. Before we get to questions, something I want to mention now that we've talked about King School, they are, for those of you that are not familiar with United Nations Day, they are having their United Nations Day parade tomorrow at 1 p.m. if you would like to go and see. It is a tradition that has been there long before I think Joe or I have ever worked in the district. And it's something really exciting where all the kids get to showcase all of the different countries that they come from at King School.
United Nations Day was actually last week on the 24th.
Oh, I thought it was tomorrow.
No, it was actually on the 24th, but we were in Fall Institute, and so we didn't. No, it is tomorrow.
Oh, United Nations
The-
Day,
but
yes.
the actual.
Oh, okay.
No, you're right. It is tomorrow.
Yes.
The
But
parade.
I didn't want to confuse folks.
Yes,
the
United
actual
Nations
United
Day.
Nations
Yes,
Day
thank
was
you.
last week on October 24th. But
Yes.
students were not in school.
Yes,
So
thank
we're
you. Yes.
celebrating tomorrow.
Yes,
Yeah.
well, if you're able to come to the parade is
It's
tomorrow.
tomorrow.
Thank you. Okay, so Joe and I are available for any questions about
Questions,
this.
comments? Sherry?
Just a quick one. The one thing I remember from the Cal report is the changing of the percentage of instruction from moving from 90 to 10 to 80 and to 80 and 20. Were you able to accomplish that this
We
year?
did. We have switched to an 80-20 model. So if you click on the link that opens up the mission and vision, you'll see that those grids are in there as far as what is being taught in which languages. And yes, we did switch that for our Spanish program to 80-20. For our French program, it has maintained a 50-50. It's still 50-50.
Other questions? Jennifer?
I'm wondering about the Amplify program. That was a curriculum made for dual language, not just for like developmental Spanish.
It's a curriculum that was made for Spanish language arts.
For Spanish language
Yes.
arts, so not necessarily dual language.
Correct.
So that's why you've decided,
Yes.
and I hate to ask you this, but I was not quick enough to write down the, you said certain grades were using more of the Amplify. Could you say that
K
again?
through 2 is using the Amplify Caminos. So Caminos and CKLA are the same thing, just CKLA is in English, Caminos is in Spanish. So K through 2 is using Caminos. We made that decision primarily because at K through 2, a lot of our teachers are long-term sub, not a lot, but we have more long-term subs, more teachers who are newer to the profession that weren't quite ready to expand to the biliteracy unit frameworks. And with the 80-20 model, it was a little harder to do the booths as designed. So K through 2 is doing the Caminos as intended.
But
K-
then, so when are they getting their 20% English? How are
Well,
they- or
Caminos
are
is
they
only
getting
for
that?
language arts.
I'm sorry.
It's only for their language arts block, so they're doing English instruction through some of the intervention time. They're doing some oracy practices. They're doing some initial phonics. So they're using some components of the English CKLA during that intervention block that they have, as well as when they're doing science and social studies.
Okay. And then is the biliteracy unit framework,
Mhm.
is that another program that we bought? Or is
So-
that something that the teachers are developing?
That is something that they have been developing since Joe was still director. And we had support from the U of I where they were developing biliteracy units. So they continue to develop more of them and expand them as the standards change in the state. That's kind of an ongoing process.
Yeah, the biliteracy unit framework is not something you purchase. It's the framework that you use to create units, and you pull the resources from different sources into that unit.
Right, okay.
John, you want to go back to that slide? It was the colorful one, maybe?
Oh, yep. John really wants to hear that song.
Yeah, and so the 3rd through 5th grades are doing more of that? Are they using much of the Amplify?
They're using components of it. One of the challenges that we're at right now is finding that time for the teams to collaborate in order to continue working on the booths. Part of that has been, funding that we would use to pay for subs has not been cleared yet. That is something that professional development has committed to with Title II, but we're still waiting for all of those pieces to kind of fall into place. Yankee Ridge does have 2 building-based subs, so Patricia has been working with the 2 building-based subs to at least get 2 of a 4-person team some time to work together. But they do a lot of this during their regular collabs, during what do they call them, the curriculum open gyms. A lot of teachers met over the summer during open gyms to do a lot of that work, but it is an ongoing process.
And is it going better because everybody's in the same building?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. So they get collabs twice a week at least, plus every Monday when they have staff meetings. So they're getting a lot more time to plan together and help kind of divvy up the work amongst each other, as opposed to being in 2 separate buildings and I'm doing it all myself or with one other partner, as opposed to working with a team of 4.
I had one other question. And you gave demographics, and one of the demographics said African American. And is that including the Congolese as okay?
Yep, that includes the whole building, which has seen an increase as well, because we've
Right.
also.
I just meant, we're counting them as African American, not African.
Yes,
Okay, that's my question.
that was based on the federal race codes,
Right,
and the federal race codes don't have an African category. They also don't have a Latino Hispanic category, but that's a conversation for a different day.
I just want to say one thing, that during our discussions last year and at the end of the year, it was a dream to have everybody come together and for this building to be just for the multi-languages, and I just want to congratulate you for making it work.
Well, thank you all for your support. I remember texting Joe and the first day I was in there to give teachers work time in July, because the building hadn't been opened yet, but I opened it up a few days in July for them to come in. And I had to get sentimental and really cry and realize this is really happening. And just seeing all of the work that the past 3 years have come to, and thanking Randy and his team for how quick they got that building together. And if you have not been there, the decals and the signage being in 3 languages everywhere, it really feels like an inclusive environment for our student population that's there.
Okay. Anybody else?
I had a question. The CAL evaluation feedback, is that like a program or like a group of people, or where does that come from?
The Center for Applied Linguistics is, for lack of a better way to say it, a think tank that specifically focuses on research around language learning. They're based out of Washington, D.C. Part of the work the past 3 years was recommended from the board that we do a programmatic evaluation, as well as it was time. We were 10 years in. It was time to really take a good look. So that was about a 3-4 month process where they were here taking data, doing all the steps of a typical evaluation, and that was the feedback they gave to us.
Right. And then the English learners, is that just students that's like English is their second language?
So
Or-
that number comes from the state's criteria as far as how to identify someone as an English learner. So every family that enrolls in our district is required to fill out a home language survey. If they check yes to either of those questions, I speak another language in the home or my child speaks another language in the home, we're required to do an English assessment of that child. If they don't meet the state level of the state criteria, then they are identified as an English learner and have to take the access exam annually until they meet the threshold, which currently is 4.8.
Okay, thank you.
One more question. I'm assuming the French classes are using the bilingual unit framework then?
The French classes are actually using the CKLA K through 5. The French teachers are all, it's a little different because the French schedule is a little challenging. So they're trying to implement it during their science and social studies time. We're getting there, but since the Spanish program had that established for the past 10 plus years, we're still kind of getting the French teachers more familiarized with it. So we are doing more training with them. The fourth, fifth grade split teacher does work more with the fifth grade team on implementing some of those strategies, but for the English portion of their day, they are using the CKLA. For the French portion of the day, they're trying to implement some of the biliteracy unit frameworks. Unfortunately, we haven't found a publisher that does French curriculum in this country, so.
Yeah.
Okay, anybody else?
And they're a 50-50,
Yes.
right? Okay.
Yep.
All right, thank you guys so
Thank
much.
you all.
Okay, thank you.
For such a great update. Yeah. Awesome.
Very
Thank
thorough,
you.
very thorough.
Yeah,
Thank you.
thanks everybody who left. They all left, but they did a great job. Thanks.
All right, moving on to our consent action items. 11.1 are the minutes from September 17th business meeting, October 1st study session, October 8th Board of Education UEA roundtable. There was one correction that was stated earlier. 10.2, a little bit of a wording switch. Are there any other corrections to that? Okay. Bills and checks for September. Advance approval received on the 17th meeting. Our education fund bills in the amount of 2.6 million. Operation and maintenance fund bills 338,000. Transportation fund bills 573,000. Working cash bonds 1.5 million. School facility occupation tax 212,000. Tort 115,000. Life and safety a little over 1,000. Payroll 7.4 million. Adult education 161,000. We do have several personnel items that the board has received. We also have approval of hazardous areas for transportation, which the board also received. That is done each year. The school district must receive approval from the Board of Education to renew the declaration of hazardous areas in order to continue to receive transportation funding from the state. So that was attached as well. And then a resolution authorizing and directing the sale and disposal of personal property that is listed, including whiteboards, tables, chairs, desks, cabinets, etc. Are there any items from this consent section that anyone would like to have removed from one general consent? That's gonna be, yeah, that's not in this section though. Yeah. Okay, so we'll get, yeah. Yeah, no, it's not in this section. Okay, so I'm not seeing anybody that wants any of these removed. Can I have is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Is there any discussion on any of these 5 items? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Member Hickson? Member Baxley?
Yes.
Member Langendorf, yes. Vice President Exum?
Yes.
I think that's it. I got it right.
Okay.
Jones, oh, I got it. Member Jones, sorry.
Yes.
Thank you. Moving on to individual action items, 12.1 is gifts. Charles Schwab and Company, Inc., Jeff Unger from Urbana donated $1,200 to Urbana High School tennis program, $600 to the girls, $600 to the boys. For First String, which is a community team, Peter McFarland and John Cooper from Urbana donated $500 to the Urbana Middle School baseball team. Louis Gillerud from Urbana donated a 3/4 size 1960s cello to the district. The donation was made in honor of Nicholas Timberley for his interest in music and the community. Dell Owens from Urbana donated $500 to the Urbana High School basketball team and $500 to the Urbana High School boys football team. That was boys basketball team, by the way. Aladdin Electric, Troy Armstrong from Urbana donated labor and materials to install 4 occupancy control lights in the band room. This donation was valued at $622.83. And Urbana High School Winter Guard received 2 donations from Kenitha Fay and Cam Wallace, both donating $100 each, totaling $200. Is there a motion for approval of the gifts and thank you cards to be sent on behalf of the board and the district?
So moved.
Is there a second? Is there any discussion? I think this is
thank
not
you.
a roll call. I think we can do all in favor for this one. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, moving on to 12.2, the fiscal year 25 budget resolution corrected. And administration is requesting approval of a corrected resolution for the district budget. Urbana adult education numbers were incorrect in the original resolution approved during the September 17th, 2024 business meeting. Is there anything additional on that we need to discuss?
Did you want me to say? Okay, yeah. Okay. So I think Carol's not here, but I think Carol inadvertently did not transfer over some numbers, or Shauna did not carry over some numbers from the budget. I don't know. Mary Ann knows better than I
Turn
do,
on,
so I'll let
okay.
her.
I think it was a simple copy and paste.
Copy and
kind-
paste
Like, I
error.
think that when they were transferring numbers, it
Yep.
was from like 2 years ago. And when they were updating, that part didn't get updated on what you guys were approving. So
Yep.
it was just a typo.
Okay.
Thank you. I couldn't remember the exact details.
Are there any questions? Okay, is there a motion for approval? of
So
the
moved.
correct- Okay, is there a second? Okay, any additional discussion? Okay, let's do a roll call on this one.
Member Baxley?
Yes.
Member Langendorf, yes. Vice President Exum?
Yes?
Member Jones?
Yes.
And Member Hickson?
Yes.
Okay, motion carries. Moving on to 12.3, resolution providing for the issue of approximately 23 million general obligation school bonds, which is alternative revenue source. And looks like we have
Yeah, Ann Noble's here from Stiefel.
Ann
so,
here.
Yep. So you want to keep going, but so you get your motions and all that, so
Okay.
you can discuss. Yeah.
Okay, so, is there a motion?
Thank you.
So moved.
Is there, and you're moving for approval, correct?
For
Okay.
approval,
Is there a
correct.
second?
Second.
All right, we can discuss now.
Let's see. Am I on? There we go. All right. Wonderful. Well, thank you for having me. I'm Ann Noble from Stiefel. It's a pleasure to be in front of you all again. So I just wanted to walk you through a summary of the bonds, which will relate to both that action item that you just moved and the next resolution. So I know we've been talking about these proposed bonds for 2 years.
Yes.
So it's been a long time in coming. And we did officially take orders. We did what we called priced the bonds today, which is essentially making them available to investors to submit orders for the bonds and give us proposed final interest rates. And then if you approve the resolution tonight, we will confirm those orders and the bonds will officially be sold in the morning, okay? So I can actually tell you how it came out, so. I will be brief, but on page 2, I've just given you a little example or actually an outline of interest rates over the last 10 years at the top and over the last 12 months at the bottom. So you can see we're certainly higher than we've been. About 18 months ago, interest rates were lower than they are today. But we have come down from where we were not too long ago. We've had a nice little rally recently, and today was actually a good day in the market. The market's been very, very erratic lately, as you can imagine. All things going on in the economy and politics locally and globally makes the market a little schizophrenic. So we've seen up, down, up, down, up, down. Today was a down day, so that's to your advantage. So it was a good time. Sorry. Page 3 is essentially probably I think the most important page for you, and these are the 2 sets of bonds. And this is why you have 2 resolutions. So we have one set of bonds. The Series A bonds are what we call alternate revenue bonds because they're secured by your sales tax, your county school facilities sales tax revenue. And then the Series B bonds are your working cash bonds. The sales tax bonds are the bonds we've been talking about for 2 years toward your construction projects, right? And it is just an extension of bonds that you already have in place. That are already secured by the sales tax revenue. We authorized up to 23 million of these bonds to be sold, and we ended up only needing to sell 21.3 million in order to fund the 23 million of project costs because some of the bonds were sold at what we call a premium interest rates, which basically generates more dollars for the projects and more interest expense. It's not free money. It's literally just shifting a portion of the project funds from the principal column to the interest column, okay? So we're just selling less principal amount, but in the end you're repaying the same when we count principal plus interest. It's sort of like paying points on your mortgage, okay? These bonds originally 2 years ago when we started talking about this, we anticipated the payback on these would be through 2039. And several months ago we determined we could cut that back to 2038 just based on sales tax revenue, interest rates. We always like to model conservatively, but we felt very comfortable we could cut a year off. We ended up being able to cut another year off. So you'll see the final payment on the bonds is 2037, which is great. Keeps you guys, we really wanted that payback to be less than 15 years. That's always been your standard operating procedure. So we ended at 13. So wonderful outcome. The bonds are refundable. That's so funny. The Excel converted that to dollars instead of a date. Sorry, didn't notice that. The bonds are refundable in 9 years. So in 9 years, you can prepay them and refinance them if interest rates are lower at that time. The true interest cost is basically that weighted interest rate on the bonds. It came in at a 376. A year ago when I presented to you on this, we were at a 462. So notably improved. Total payment on the bonds is $30.25 million. That includes the principal plus the interest, so it's costing you about $7 million to borrow 23. Okay. Then the Series B bonds are the working cash fund bonds. These working cash fund bonds are, I call them your rolling working cash. You have been doing this every 3 years I've been working with you for 22 years, and you have been doing it that entire time. So every 3 years, we do a working cash transaction for 3 years. You basically borrow about $1 million-ish a year. And at the end of that 3 years, we roll it and we do it over again. And it just holds the tax rate flat on your bonds because we're not increasing the bond payment. We keep it nice and short. And it's eligible to be used for any legal purpose of the district. You could use it for operations, but historically you have almost always used it for technology or capital projects. I do think there was 1 year you had to dip into this for operations back when the state was prorating you. So this is your rolling cash transaction. Usually this transaction we sell directly to a bank here in Urbana. We bid it out, and Busey Bank is oftentimes the buyer, not always. But we usually do bid it out to banks. This time, because you were also doing the alternate revenue bonds, we rolled them together because you get some economies of scale by doing that. But I am happy to say Busey Bank did buy about a third of these. The interest rate on these is higher because these are sold at a taxable interest rate, which means the investor who buys them will have to pay income tax on the interest you pay them. The alternate revenue bonds, because they're 100% for capital projects, you can borrow those with tax-exempt interest rates, which are lower. But because we want the working cash fund bonds to be fully flexible so you can use it for any legal purpose, we sell those as taxable. So you'll see the interest rate on those it's higher. It's at 505 instead of the 376 that we have on the alternate revenue bonds. That also reflects the current crazy interest rate environment we're in right now, where short-term rates are actually higher than long-term rates. So that's part of what you're seeing there too. That bond we were projecting a year ago to be at a 570. So we didn't gain as much ground on that interest rate, but still almost 60 basis points. So the rest of this I will breeze through pretty quickly, but that's the essence of the two transactions. Are there any questions on that? Alrighty. Page 4 just shows you the results of today's sale. And if you look at the little lines that are sort of at the bottom of these blue bars, you'll see a black line that goes across the page. That represents that's how many bonds we had in each year that were available to investors. So all the blue above the horizontal line were basically orders beyond what we had available. We had more orders than we had bonds. It's simple supply and demand when it comes to bonds, right? So when we have more demand than we have supply, guess what we get to do? We get to lower the interest rate until enough of the buyers walk. Okay? So what we were able to do was lower the interest rates, and you'll see in each year, like in that second year, -10 up at the top. That means we lowered the interest rates by 0.1%. And that's what it took to get enough buyers to drop. Okay? So basically, as we sold the bonds this morning, we were able to lower the interest rates in every year. And I told Marianne, right now, these days, most of the time, this graph has like empty spots in it. We have years where we have no orders. So your name actually has always sold well. You are very well received by the market, and today was no different. So, and then down at the bottom, I highlighted for you some of the buyers, but mostly some large institutional buyers and a few bank names that you will recognize. And then the next two pages, page 5 shows you the sales tax bond payment schedule showing all of the sales tax bonds and how much money you will have left in sales tax revenue over on the far right-hand side. So based on fiscal year 24's sales tax revenue, you received about $4.5 million in revenue. The new bond payments are in that light blue column. And then the far right just shows you'll have these next 2 fiscal years. We have a little dip in your available sales tax revenue down around 1.2 million, and then we flatline you at 1.6. Okay? And again, we keep it nice and short, so it'll give you flexibility to borrow again if you need to, but I don't know, you're kind of working your way through your list, so. And then the last page is your working cash fund bonds. If you look in the sort of pink shaded boxes, you can see the new bonds, the Series 2024 bonds. So there's just 3 years of payments there. And we actually only have a partial payment in the 3rd year because your EAV has grown so much that when we authorized this a year ago, we didn't need the full 3rd year. So when you come back to do the next one, that's okay, we'll fill the gap, okay? But you'll see we're keeping the tax rate flat at 33 cents. And then you'll see in the orange section, those are the future rolling working cash bond issues that we anticipate doing. We'll just keep doing this until you say you don't want to. But it's queued up and we have room to keep doing it, so. And with that, that is all I have there. Except I do have one comment on the resolution before you actually take action. But do you have any questions on the bonds themselves?
Board members, any questions?
You will have your money on November 18th, by the way. So, the resolution, because the board president isn't here tonight, if you wouldn't mind when you approve both of the resolutions, if you could propose an amendment to include the vice president as a designated representative. We do have one document that needs to be signed tonight, and I want to make sure the vice president is authorized to do that. So if we can just make that one amendment, and then I will just need one signature from the superintendent and the vice president tonight, and then a week from now we will have this many documents that will need to be signed, but we'll FedEx those to you.
Okay, so it sounds like we probably need to vote no on the first, because we've already had a motion and a second. So we'll do roll call and vote no. And then. Or pull the motion.
Yeah, I
Okay.
offer to pull my motion from the,
For 12.3.
12.3.
Okay. Is there anybody who disagrees?
Yes.
Yeah, new motion.
Okay. Is,
And so, Ann, that one that you need amended, is that for the 12.3 or 12.4? Is it
It's
for both?
actually for both.
Okay, so we'll
No.
do the same thing for both, for the vice president.
Right.
Perfect, okay.
okay, so is there a new motion?
So moved? No, new,
So we have to make the
a
motion.
new motion
Yeah.
to approve the amended resolution
With
With the-
the,
with the vice president as
A
uh,
designated
designated
representative.
signer,
yeah, a designated approved signer, yeah.
designated approved signer.
Mhm.
Thank you.
Okay, is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please. Or any additional discussion? Okay, roll call, please.
Member Langendorf, yes. Vice President Exum?
Yes.
Member Jones?
Yes.
Member Hickson? Yes. Member Baxley?
Yes.
Okay, moving on to 12.4, is there a motion?
So moved?
Let's
Mo-
see, yep.
The motion to approve amended resolution 12.4 with the vice president as the designated signee.
Is there a second?
Second.
Roll call, please.
Any discussion?
Oh, any discussion? Any additional discussion? We
Yeah,
have already
additional, yeah.
discussed.
Did you want to say anything?
Or any questions?
About the roll
When,
cash?
when we do this every year, from what account do we pay the interest for this?
The debt service account actually pays
Oh, there's
the
an
interest.
actual just debt
Yes.
service account that
Yes.
we, and I'm talking about the working cash.
Mhm.
Yes, it
Oh.
that definitely count. It's repaid from the property tax levy, but that specific part of your levy goes into, is that Fund 50? I can't remember what, yeah, debt service. It is a specific fund. Is it 70? It could be 70.
And
Yeah.
it's just something that's there all
Yes,
the time and has been.
yes. And it's restricted. It can only be used to pay bonds.
Yeah, and it's been the board's that way all the time. Like, the board has designated that a certain portion of it has to go to pay the interest.
Right.
It's always been that way.
Yep.
Any additional questions or discussion? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Vice President Exum?
Yes.
Member Jones?
Yes.
Member Hickson?
Yes.
Member Baxley?
Yes.
Member Langendorf, yes.
Okay, motion carries. Moving on to 12.5, approval bid for Tiger Academy rooftop unit replacements. And is that Randy?
I don't have anything extra to add about that. I know we pulled it from the agenda a few weeks ago, so I could look into possibly saving some money. But this is the way we have to go.
Is there a motion?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any additional discussion, questions, comments? Seeing none, roll call, please.
Member Jones?
Yes.
Member Hickson?
Yes.
Member Baxley?
Yes.
Member Langendorf, yes. Vice President Exum?
Yes. Motion carries. Our call for future special or executive meetings, we do have a meeting coming up on November 6th at 5:30, as well as November 7th at 5:30 for the purpose of student discipline. Superintendent's report.
Okay. John's gonna cue those up, very short. Yep, do those after, yep. And we can split them because it's a lot if you want. Okay, so, last week, we celebrated our 40 under 40 winners. It was actually the day of Fall Institute, so it was a little tricky because all of our staff who would have enjoyed being there and celebrating Tiara Brown from UHS and Christy Kaplan from Yankee Ridge and Domisha Perkins Nunn from Tiger Academy, she works right here, were in all of their sessions during the day. So I went over and was able to enjoy lunch with our honorees. So this is Tiara on the left, Christy is in the middle, and Domisha there on the end. So they were very excited. We're super proud of all of them. So congratulations to our 40 under 40 winners from the News Gazette Business Magazine. Yay. UHS Career Days. So UHS College and Career Center and the UHS PTSA hosted the first career days during lunch hours this month. A variety of careers were represented, many of which were careers our students have expressed interest in learning more about. The plan is to host more career days throughout the year. So the PTSA and the College and Career Center collaborated on this. So we have, I see Chief Dade in this picture. I can't name all of the folks who are there. So I see people from Lands Plumbing and Heating. We had some folks from Tricoci University Beauty Culture, their Banner Free Library. Is that Kevin Lane? I was trying to see. Yep, maybe. I know we have firefighters there. We had Keller and Williams Realtors, U.S. Navy, and veterinary medicine. Paxton Veterinary Clinic. So awesome. So, yay. Oh, that is Kevin from WCIA on the right. I was looking on the left. Yay. So, oh yeah, that was the day we had a, something happened. I can't remember what happened. The fire drill or something happened. And they all got to experience it with us. So, yay. So, yeah, so we'll do more of these at the high school. So, yay. So that was a great day. CUSF. So we also delivered grant checks last week. So we had several of our USD teachers. So Mitzi, who was here, is one of our board members on the CU Schools Foundation. Mrs. Smith is a Urbana board member. So the three of us, in addition to Dr. Boozer from Unit 4 and many, many other board members from the community who are in all different occupations, went around to all of the schools in Urbana-Champaign and surprised our teachers who wrote some wonderful project ideas with their grant checks. So this is just a couple. So in the top corner, this is dance and drama teacher from Yankee Ridge with Patricia Valente, Principal Valente, with some students from dance and drama there. And in the corner is Ms. Jackson from Thomas Paine with one of the co-teachers, Ms. Ferguson. She had stepped out of her third grade class that she was pushing into there. She wrote some a grant for some books for to accompany the CKLA units that she's working on. And then this one here in the middle is a Tiger Academy one. So this is a really unique grant that Mr. JJ there in the middle wrote with the teachers here at Tiger Academy. They're going to do a documentary and do a story about the students that are here, and the students are going to learn how to write a documentary and just talk about their lives and their it's really interesting. They're going to bring in a documentarian to teach them how to do a documentary, and the students are going to be involved in it, hands-on, and they're going to do video and interviews, and it is going to be a very unique project. So we're really excited that the Tiger Academy students are going to be able to participate in that project. So, and there were many, many, many other, these are just a few pictures that we're showing, but there were many, many fantastic, innovative, creative ideas that our teachers across the district are going to be participating in the next year, thankfully, due to the generosity of the people who donate to CU Schools Foundation, many of whom are right here at this table. So thank you for your support of CU Schools Foundation. Next are just some of our dates. So yes, this is the correct time for the United Nations Parade. Lupe said that her time was off, I think, but yeah, it is at 1:45. So yes, is that right, Lori? When she okay, she texted back, yes. Thomas Paine's Family Reading Night is Friday. I believe it is at 6 o'clock. There isn't a time on there, but I do think it is at 6. Monday is Staff Development Day. No school for elementary students. There is school for middle school and high school students, like all of our Staff Development Days. Tuesday is an election day, and in Illinois, there is no school for students this year. And then November 14th through the 16th is the fall musical at the high school. Oh, 4:30 to 7, okay. All right. And we have several FOIAs.
And on the dates, Lupe also corrected that I think she said the wrong time earlier. The United Nations parade is at 1:45.
Yeah, we said that.
Oh.
John was multitasking.
Thanks for the reinforcement.
All right. So you want to start them off, Tori?
I'll start. Okay. So our FOIA request completed. The first is from Tom Schroeder. One containing School of Illinois Public Cooperative, SIPC, schoolsofillinois.org, or alternatives or variations. 2 containing 1187 Consulting, 1187consulting.com, K. Dozier, or known alternative or variations. 3 containing both Verigy and RFP, request for proposal or procurement, or known alternatives or variations. 4 that included Gordon Schweitzer or Verigy as a sender or recipient of communication or other records. The search can be limited from July 1st, 2022 to June 31st, 2023. Megan Robinson from Champaign County Board, all documents relating to the sale of Brookins Junior High, 1776 East Washington Street, Urbana, PIN 92-21-16-200-006, sold to Electronics Decision or University Microelectronics Center around December of 1985. Tom Schroeder has an additional narrowed. I will explicitly limit the search to the records of district administrators, district officials, and district purchasing staff. Also from Tom Schroeder, number 1, administrative salary statements or similar records that detail current or agreed upon salaries for administrator positions, any portion of the 2024-2025 school year. Number 2, records reflecting market value research for the CIO, CFO positions that were used to justify higher salary increases. Number 3, copies of any separation agreements between the district and administrators that were approved during the 2023-2024 and 2024-2025 school years. Number 4, copies of any communications submitted by administrators during the 2023-2024 and 2024-2025 school years, declaring their resignation or intent to resign from their positions. Also from Tom Schroeder, narrowed requests for text messages that were sent between Superintendent Ivory Tatum and other district employees for the period of January 21st to January 24th, 2024. Also from Tom Schroeder, requesting compliance or other records documenting the values or gifts from a prohibited source under the board's ethics and gift ban policy, particularly regarding meals at the Gage restaurant in Chicago, provided by Verigy LLC to administrators, board members, and spouses, as well as Blues hockey tickets reserved for the Director of Facilities. A search from July 1st, 2022 to the present is requested. From Chris Allen at Dodge Construction Network, the awarded contractor, their amount, construction start and completion dates regarding the Tiger Academy rooftop unit replacements bid on 9/25. And those, I believe, have all been fulfilled, correct, Lori? Those have been fulfilled.
Those were fulfilled, and I did want to add one note that in the course of fulfilling the FOIA, the district determined that there weren't any district staff that attended a Verigy Blues game.
Okay, thank you for that clarification. Okay, moving on to board reports. Any board reports?
I think it's interesting and to see how many countries that we have, different countries and all the languages that we have in our community. And I think that a lot of times we, as living in this area as Americans, we have certain customs and such that we want to promote and such. And I think that some families are concerned about the fact that our district doesn't participate in Halloween, and yet we have such a wonderful community with so many Halloween activities on the weekends, and especially now with the trunk or treat, is that they call them trunk or treat? There are just so many things that are available for students, and I don't know if, it seems like this has been not a policy, but also a custom that many of the schools do not participate in costume wearing, and maybe that's something that we need to express to newcomers in our community, if that's what they expect schools to do from where they come from, so.
Any other board reports? Jennifer?
I had a question, and I had asked, in my email to Lori about the board minutes. In the first board minutes, where we were supposed to have the, it was the meeting where we were supposed to have public comments and discuss the PE waiver. And 4 people spoke. And at the end of that meeting, I asked if those people could be contacted so that their comments could be put with the waiver, because they all spoke in favor of more movement during the school day. And I noticed that 2 of the people, I mean, I don't know if they actually came back but in the subsequent meeting when we actually did discuss the waiver, two of the people, their comments were in there, but two of them, they were not. And I was just wondering if we could somehow not put the comments in, but at least say that we understand that they spoke against the waiver, and if there's any way to,
Put it in the minutes or?
well, put in the minutes for the next meeting,
Oh,
because that was during the waiver time.
discussion.
The reason that the two were, because they did request to be put in and included. The others we didn't hear anything from, so they were not included. That's why they were not included in September 17th.
And I think they had left before I made the request that they be included, and then we said, well, if somebody contacts us, then we'll include them. So I just kind of thought that somebody would, because I don't know their name. I mean, I didn't know them, so I didn't know. So I'm just wondering, at least in the future, I think we should make sure that we should accommodate people. We should respect the fact that they came for that meeting thinking that they were speaking. And so
Sure.
I'm just wondering if we couldn't add them. I'm sure the waiver has already gone in.
Yeah, the waiver's already
And
been
so-
sent. and
but
we-
it-
And we approved those minutes this evening as well, that meeting occurred. With the public hearing.
Right.
The meeting that the public hearing was on, those minutes were tonight, those were approved as well, so they would have to come back to be amended.
Oh,
Which would,
okay.
Yeah.
that's the board's prerogative, but that's
So I think what you're saying is in the future, yes,
Mm-hmm.
so in the,
I think that, if I remember correctly, when I wanted to speak to the board, I
Yeah.
wrote my name and address and
Yeah.
stuff like that. So we could have contacted them
Sure.
and said, if you want your
Yep.
comments in the record, please send them to us, or something like that.
Yes.
And I just think that that's kind of more respectful of the public.
yes.
Okay. Any additional board reports? Seeing none, is there a motion for adjournment?
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Meeting adjourned. 8:09.
Well, I made this one only one topic, because the next one will be a little longer. I was trying to manage this one, because the next one we'll talk about the school report card and